Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak on Trust Television. I am Zainab Bala.
Yes, indeed. I am Dashan Husseina Usman, and welcome to the dawn of another morning. It is an opportunity for us to start afresh. And remember, today is the 4th of November, 2021, Zainab. The 4th of November? Yes, exactly.
Go out of October and now we're already
honestly
moving down.
And the year is rounding up like
out.
Seriously. And you know, the 4th of November is actually World Common Sense Day. It's actually Common Sense Day, and it only requires one thing. It only requires for you to think before you act, which is a very, very important thing to do.
But I hear people say common sense is not
common at all. Yeah. And this is the reason why, we have this day. So, you always remember to think before you act to avoid any form of disaster at all.
Right. Well, today we're going to be having an international broadcaster. She's a popular name, and many people, look up to her because of her immense, contributions to the journalism world, particularly for women.
Yes, and we'll also be having Francis Enapore. He's the PRO of the corrections facilities in Nigeria, and he'll be talking about the prison break and the jail breaks that have been happening in the country, with us today.
Well, before we do that, let's take a look at the 4th of November in world history. Take a look.
All right, welcome back. It is Today in History, and taking a look at what happened in history in 0644, that was way before the 1900s. Umar of Arabia is assassinated at Medina, and he succeeded as Caliph by Uthman. And then in 1995, Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin is assassinated at a peace rally in Tel Aviv. In 2008, one history that would actually go down in sands of time, Senator Barack Obama of Illinois was elected 44th President of the United States. That's the first African American to hold that position. And finally, in 1925, another feat, first woman governor of a state in the U.S.?
Oh, let's not be gender sensitive. Well, this is really, a game changer. It's
Yes,
a beautiful
it is.
thing, and I would like to see that happen in Nigeria. Many will say that's impossible, but
Okay, but do you know what it actually means for a black man to actually rule America? Like, it actually opened a lot of doors for other, African Americans in the country. Talking about Kamala Harris, who is the vice president of the United States of America as well. And I've actually been seeing a lot of black people, taking giant strides, making giant strides in the U.S. these days. And a lot of Nigerians as well.
I just wanted to, actually mention that I've seen other Somalis as well, many Somalis,
a lot of them
taking this kind of leadership positions in the U.S. And it's really a beautiful thing, not just for African Americans, Somalis, but I see many Nigerians, taking beautiful positions, and this makes me really, really very proud.
Okay, but when you say you hope it happens in Nigeria, I don't understand what that means.
A
white man rule Nigeria, or
no.
Oh, okay.
A woman actually, being a president in Nigeria. It's a really dicey situation for us down here because there's culture, there's religion, and all of that. But I do hope someday, this actually happens.
Well, I think it will actually be a game changer. It will definitely.
Indeed. Well, it's time for us, to take a look at the dailies on Daybreak. Today, after this short time out, we're going to be seeing some of the stories that made the headlines. Stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, it's time for the dailies, and as usual, we'll start by taking a look at the front page of a Daily Trust newspaper. We have on page 12 here, Bama Banki Cameroon Road reopened after 9 years. You can find that particular story on page 12. And then if you move on to page 32, you find a story that says Anambra poll, U.S. threatens election riggers, troublemakers with visa ban. We also have down the page here, on page 10, Ikoyi building collapse. Death toll rises to 22, and we see that the death toll keeps rising every day. It's really a sad one, and a lot of families keep complaining of missing relatives as well. All right, on page 18, we also have DMO to issue 250 billion naira to cook for road projects. And on page 29, robbers invade Kwara community, rape minors. This is really a sad one.
Terrible.
All right, on page 4, we have planned demolition of Islamic city sparks controversy in Lagos. And the major headline on the front page is NNPC spends 864 billion naira on petrol subsidy in 8 months. And we have a writer here that says remits 496 billion naira, skips April, and also fix refineries to get it right, says expert. And I think an extensive research was actually done on this one.
All right. This is a beautiful data journalism there.
Yes.
I think that's the way to go these days. All right, let's take a look at some of the stories on the Punch newspaper this morning. The Punch is leading with Ikoyi building, death toll rises as Lagos probe collapse, owner, pastor missing. And a rider saying building project sponsors whereabouts unknown. Sanwo-Olu names survivors. And you'd also see 15-story building plan approved, not 21 stated by Deputy Governor. Document shows. Okay, this is another side to the story we're seeing. And then you would also see MBA petitions commissions panel over Malami magistrates' roles in Odili's home raid. You'd also find on page 39 of the Punch newspaper, council battle over final forfeiture of $899.600 found in Abuja apartment. You'd also find army roadblocks return terrorists, kidnappers lay siege to FCT. You still find on the Punch newspaper this morning, PenCom begins clamp down on defaulting employers, appoints recovery agents. You'd also see Uni Abuja invaders demand 300 million for abducted profs' family members. That's quite sad indeed. You can remember yesterday we were having a conversation and Arivia was saying, do professors actually have money, or why are they actually picking them up like that? You'll find the details of that story on the Punch newspaper. You'd also see Ekiti woman jailed 10 years for assaulting pregnant neighbor, forcing labor. Oh, wow. Some say, well, that's quite sad. A woman like you and, you're doing this to her. Well, you find the details of that on the Punch newspaper. So these are some of the stories on the Punch this morning.
All right, with that, we'll move on to the Nation newspaper. And on page 28, it says, North's elders on 2023, vote competent, honest leader. And then if you move on to page 8, World Bank, that's on business. World Bank asks government to curb inflation and improve exchange rates. On page 7, you'd find a gas leakage scare in Lagos. Page 6, you find JAMB remits 3.51 billion naira as operating surplus, and also 162 back from Libya. All right, the next story here is federal government needs 7 trillion naira to fix 854 roads. And there's a writer here that says Lagos-Ibadan East-West roads for completion next year. And you would actually find that story on page 28. All right, sugar processing attracts 250 billion naira investment. And you find that story on page 4. And this one here says collapsed Lagos building, still on the collapsed Lagos building, government to punish offenders. And writers here say Sanwo-Olu names promises tough action, and also probe panel setup, and death toll now 24. That's even away from 22. Oh.
Okay, so those are some of the stories you find on the Nation newspaper. Let's take a look at some of the stories making headlines on the Blueprint newspaper this morning. You'll see on page 22 of Blueprint, NLNG diverts LPG exports to domestic markets to crash prices. You'll also see equity market dips by 20 billion naira. And the Blueprint newspaper is leading with the story NEF to federal government. Declare bandit terrorist. Tackle IPOB for hitch-free Anambra poll. And the riders seeks fair trial of Nnamdi Kanu. Warns against dozier of Borno IDP camps. Another rider is saying advocates formation of political parties to counter APC, PDP. You'd also see Uni Abuja suffers fresh attack. Robbers, cultists torment lecturers, students, many flee. You'd also see gunmen raid school staff quarters, abduct vice principal. Oh, this is getting way out of hand. So you find the details of that story on the Blueprint newspaper. You'd also see Army raises the alarm over reduction in budget size. And on page 5, demolition, transporters, hoodlums attack FCT officials, injure 6. Okay, the stories are quite sad this morning. So you find details of that on the Blueprint newspaper. These are some of the stories on the Blueprint this morning.
Okay, all right. Right here in the studio, we actually have a guest, as usual, to analyze, some of the stories making rounds on the newspaper. And we have Comrade Salihu Ntata right here in the studio. You're welcome to JB.
Very pleasant morning to Nigerians and erudite anchor females.
Welcome to the show. Okay, now
yes, he's actually
you're being gender. Yeah, I don't understand actually. He's saying females.
He's actually the former bureau chief, Daily Trust, Daily News Abuja, and also a public affairs analyst. And, he'll be here to dissect some of the stories with us. Let's start with the major story on Daily Trust, a newspaper, and it's about the subsidy that NNPC is spending 864 billion naira on petrol subsidy in 8 months. And it says here that they remitted 496 billion naira, but also skipped April. Yes. And, experts are saying they need to fix refineries to get, petrol subsidy, the petrol right in Nigeria. What's your take on this?
Well, I see this as gimmick and abracadabra because a lot of us in this country knows the kind of corruption that accompanied the subsidy regime even before the inception of the Muhammadu Buhari administration. Severally, they make statements regarding helping Nigerians that if the subsidy is removed, that the ordinary people that buy petrol like me and you, sulfur and other petroleum-related products like gas and all stuff, I don't see it that way because even the people at the end of affairs, they are the ones that move with the highest numbers of convoys and what have you. Then how do you now say the subsidy is helping the man that drives maybe 1 car, 2 car, and hardly moves the way you move? So in the whole, the PIB bill, I believe, should be able to, after the completion of the commercialization of the Apex oil company, the NNPC, be able to be held accountable, because we cannot afford to say in 8 months this amount of billions have been spent on subsidy. Who is it at the part of the Petroleum Product Pricing Regulatory Agency that has been scrapped, or other subsidiaries of the NNPC, or is it the GMD or its executive directors or the GMs or DGM or AGMs that are not telling Nigerians the truth? We know that the President and Commander-in-Chief is the substantive petroleum minister. The Minister of State only does what the President directs as the substantive Minister of Petroleum. So the questions go to the President and Commander-in-Chief, who also doubles as the substantive petroleum minister. How come these monies expanded and spent? Did they go through legislative backing? Because we have the 2 chambers of the National Assembly, and of course we have standing committees both on petroleum upstream and downstream. So their oversight functions, how come about this? Have they oversighted the way they ought to do and how it ought to be done? And did this money spent go through budgetary approval and host of others? So if they are saying from other sources, how? Of course, we have the Minister of Finance. They need to make explanations to Nigerians, because we are tired of much of this money spent. Most of this type of expenditure ought to have gone into healthcare, education, power, employment, women programs, youth programs, and also of other things related to shelter and also others. So we are fed up and tired of always having these huge amounts of money spent on subsidy. I know they would justify this by saying when the subsidy is removed, we are going to pay the price. How?
Okay.
Are we not paying the price now?
Right. Well, experts, and international organizations over the years have been of the opinion that we take away, subsidy, because they feel, it's draining so much, of Nigeria's resources, which is supposed to be used to diversify the economy. Are you of that opinion as well?
You see, when we talk about experts, agreed that they are professionals. We are not also laymen. Even though we are not petrochemical engineers, we are not people that studied courses related to that industry, but at least we read books. Corruption has made these figures to go high, because if forensic auditors are to go into auditing these amounts they are mentioning, I am telling you, it is going to be a game like what is happening in Niger Delta Development Commission, where in during the COVID-19 era, they had to spend some billions of naira. At the time, they had to come to the lower chamber public hearing in the National Assembly. You see the collapse of the man at the end of affairs in NDDC. So I believe if forensic auditors and other experts that are in the trade of auditing comes to audit this amount, a lot of heads are going to roll. So whether with expertise, submission, or whatever, administration exceeds any professional calling. For any administrator or for any professional that is to go into forensic analysis of this, I think they will be faulted. I think certain people somewhere, somehow have cornered certain amounts of money meant for certain things. And that is why you see this amount geared up to this. It is not every figure they give us that are truth. Right. So I now wonder what the Office of Auditor General of the Federation is doing. I now wonder what also the supervising and oversighting committees of both the House of Rep and Senate are doing, because the essence of why the Senate President or the Speaker appointed them to be chairman of these committees is to ensure that probity take place, accountability take place, and whatever is given as figures on the subsidy regime is accurate and is not, exaggerated or manipulated.
So do you think fixing our refineries will actually get it right?
You see, we have a regime that is even trying to give certain percentage of managing of refineries to even private people. Like, if you go to Ajah area in Lagos, Dangote already is almost at the conclusion of bringing up a private refinery. Same way with Zenon Oil, owned by Femi Otedola, as well as BUA and also other stakeholders. So at this time, I think if we must fix the refineries, we must also take the cost. What will it take if it is in the hands of private people and people participating in the industry like Dangote and most of others, compared to when the NNPC is to manage it through its subsidiaries? Don't forget the fact that of recent, the PIB bill has made some of the subsidiaries of NNPC to go, like Petroleum Equalization Fund, PPPRA, PTDF, as well as DPR and most of others. So if the refineries company, a subsidiary of the NNPC, is to stay, let us compare and contrast what the cost is going to be if is going to be privately managed or is going to be managed entirely by NNPC, because a lot of things are taking shape with the PIB bill being passed and other changes that are taking place in the petroleum industry. So let's not beat about the bush. Let's wait until the final conclusions of what the PIB bill stated in their what have you that went through the legislature. So let's not be in a rush. If at this time we have not come into conclusion, set up committees to see that the NNPC is restructured to go in accordance with the commercialization status they want to give to it. If we now come and start saying, okay, this amount is going to put the refineries in order in the interest, even during the military, when the refineries like Kaduna refineries, Warri refineries and other refineries were working, we still had scarcity of fuel. But now that some of the refineries are not working with the importation, you can go to any of the filling stations in Zahara, in Efurum, Delta, you can go to Kayama in Kwara, you can go to Ungogo in Kano and most of other suburbs and get fuel compared to when the refineries were working in the country. So let the cost determine whether they should be put in better shape. And if the way we are moving now is better for us, then let us save some cost in order to harness into other things that are essential to human living in the country.
Okay, now there's this story, that is quite controversial on the Daily Trust newspaper, talking about planned demolition of Islamic City spark controversy in Lagos. And this controversy is coming up because there's a plan by the federal government to construct an interchange at Loto bus stop. Now, this Islamic organization is saying that that they are going to give, credence or give preference to the RCCG church, and that is why they are demolishing this this arena. Don't you think this is going to spark some form of religious upheaval? Because they're already protesting.
You mentioned federal government. When you talk about issue of the land in the country, federal government has the right to take over any land wheresoever. Right. The Land Use Act is there. There are areas where you call residual, which is only to the states. But once it comes to land-related matters, especially, the federal government has Federal Housing Authority. The federal government has a full-fledged ministry that takes over the overseeing of issues related to lands in the country. You see, sometimes we should not play politics with issues, even though we know now we have insurgency and banditry, that a lot of the movers of these dissident groups are attached to certain interests and what have you. I'm a Muslim. I wouldn't want a land associated with Islamic faith to be taken. But if the security report gives it that after taking over of the land, is not going to be given to, maybe, we are a secular nation. We have Christianity and Islam.
Right.
So the RCCG is of the Christian faith. If at all it's not going to be given to the RCCG to create religious unrest, then let it be. Because public interest exceeds individual interest.
Right.
If what is going to be used is going to be for the benefit of mankind, then let it be. But if at the other way, certain self-centered people in governance have the interest of taking it from the Islamic faith and giving it to the RCCG, which is of the Christian faith, that can bring up religious unrest, riots, and also then let neutrality be played out, where the original allotee should continue use of the land. But if it is for public interest, maybe building of healthcare, school, or anything that will benefit humanity, then let it be. Federal government, as we know, world over, has the power to take over any land. Even if it is a government house in Alausa, if the federal government of Nigeria goes through the process, they have the right to take it. That is why we call them federal government, a federated government.
It's quite a sensitive
issue to talk about, actually.
All right, so let's move on to page 12, still on Daily Trust, where Bama Banki Cameroon Road reopened after 9 years. Is this a wise move, considering it was actually closed in the first place due to insurgency?
Well, when you look at security agencies from the Army, Navy, Air Force, Police, DSS, NIA, Immigration, and host of others, they have certain intelligence information that we don't have. So for them to, after those years or months, to have agreed to say, okay, let that road open, it means it is now safe. Don't forget the fact that there is a joint task force in the northeastern part of the country fighting insurgency, and they have liberated a lot of IDP to their original homes. So it is very possible that that particular inhabitant, that particular location has now been seen to be safe, because you have the Department of State Services, you have the Criminal Investigation Department of the Police, you have the National Intelligence Agency, you also have the different intelligence arms of both the Land Army, Air Force, and the Navy. So, and in that state also, of course, of the states that are being pervaded by insurgency, you have a monthly Security Council meeting chaired by the governor as the chief security officer. You also have representation of the commissioner of police. You have the representation from the army, who is like commanding officer, Air Force base commandant, the naval base commandant in Baga. You also have certain representative of the DSS, that like director of DSS in that state. You have controllers of immigration, custom, and other things who constitute the state security council. So it is very possible with the theater commands there, the 7th division of the army, and other police establishment and DSS, they might have come into conclusion to have positive intelligence reports that yes, they've combed the forests and bushes, and that the Boko Haram boys and the ISWAP insurgents are no longer there, that they now took this step to make the displaced inhabitants to now reunite with their culture, with their home, because like they always say, no place like home. If, for example, you take a Kano woman to Goza, it is very difficult to live there. Yes, so okay. You now see. So it is very possible the security agencies have certified it safe for them to have agreed for these IDPs and other inhabitants to come back to their ancestral homes.
Okay, well, before we wrap up this segment of the show, Governor Zulum issued a statement warning border officials against smuggling, and extortion. But we still see, these things happening. Recently, a colleague did a story, at the border with Cotonou and Nigeria, and you get to pay stipends, to smuggle things into the country. But we still see this still happen. Do you think this can be curtailed? Well,
you see, the borders are porous. Coincidentally, I was once a personal assistant on media to Interior Minister. And when you talk about the border, there are other forces that forms joint services there. You have the immigration, you have the custom, you have the border police, you even have the army, you have the DSS, you have other agents, even the road safety. For example, from Badagry, Idi, Roko, Owode, Semeboda, you will see this contingent of security agencies. You see sometimes one's welfare is so poor, especially for the other ranks of these services. This is what you see, because just the way the commissioned officers of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Police, Immigration, Customs, Civil Defense, and others are taken care of, it is not the same way that these other ranks, and when we call other ranks, these are the cadres that are personnel that are joined with secondary school certificate. No matter what action you take, no matter what message the Minister of Defense, Minister of Interior, Controller General of Immigration, Custom, Commandant General of Civil Defense, Inspector General of Police gives to them, without you enhancing their package where they will have hazard insurance and there are other attractive packages, this can't stop. I was once in that Semeboda where if you want to cross, there are even standby bags that are ready to convey you without you even using your ECOWAS passport or green passport to cross, where they give tickets maybe 1,000 sefa or Nigerian denomination of 500 naira, which ought not to be. So I think above all, what needed to be done is for supervision to be enhanced. There is no law that says because you are a controller of a state or commissioner of police of a state or in charge of the DSS there or the army there that you should not go and supervise the boys. Sometimes negligence at the part of the superior officers where they sit down within the city center and enjoy AC. Border areas like Kayama, Chikanda, Cotonou border, that is Kwara axis, Ouagadougou, Shaki in Oyo State, that is Burkina Faso, as well as Seme, Idi, Roko, Owode, they needed to be supervised, if it's at the part of police, with a rank not less than Deputy Commissioner of Police, who will be carrying out routine supervision. If it's that of the immigration, it should be Deputy Controller. Then if it is that of Custom, Deputy Controller of Custom. If it's that of Civil Defense, it should be Deputy Commandant of Corps of the Civil Defense. If it is that of DSS, it should be Deputy Director of Department of State Services, equivalent of the rank of Colonel in the Army. Then again, all the need, like the eloxes, like the logistics they need to patrol the bush patch. I will give you an example of Kayama, Chikanda, Benin Republic border. There are certain bush parts like Kemanji, Kugiji, where if you are moving even for 4 hours, nobody can notice you. These are the bush parts that arms are proliferated into the country, illegal vehicles are smuggled. Because the manpower is short, the personnel that are there and the officers are not up to manning these border areas. Same also extends to Gamboru Gala along Chad, Borno axis. So also Garua, Adamawa, Marwa axis to Cameroon. So these are some of the impediments and some of these are the short changes that they have. So above all, manpower needed to be enhanced, increase in personnel and officers, then logistics, welfare, then also supervision, because no matter what logistics or gadgets you give to them about patrol, without supervision in a situation where a private of the army or maybe a constable of the police border patrol sees a deputy commissioner supervising him, that enhances the morale and motivation. But in situations like this, you see, even when they are posted to Seme, Idi, Roko, Chikanda, Gure, Kosobo, Sukayama border along Kwara, you see the deputy controller or you see the deputy commissioner of police or even the deputy director of DSS is in 1 2-star hotel enjoying wine and what have you, and that is not the job he or she is sent to do there. So without enhanced supervision, welfare packages, logistics, and also getting some modern day intelligence gathering, because there are some of the forests there that without certain gadgets there is nothing. There are poachers there are illegal sawmillers. Of recent, from the Kayama local government axis of Kwara state via Kosobosu, Chikanda, there were reports that people come in disguise of looking for timber, these sawmillers. Meanwhile, they are even importing some ISWAP and armed bandits into the abandoned wildlife forest of Wawa. Itato, there used to be a very strong national park there in Wawa Games Reserve, but they shifted to some other areas. Those places are now abandoned. The wildlife is no longer conservated. Therefore, some people go in the guise of cutting trees, sawmillers, by breathing insurgency, armed banditry, and other terrorist-related activities. These reports over time, like that of Kayama local government, there were times that even about 4 vigilantes were killed. Like His Royal Majesty the Mai Borgu, that is Emir of New Busa Borgu in Niger State. They also have border areas along Babana. Of recent, one of the local emirs was kidnapped, the Dodo of Wawa, and these places are close to the border areas. From the Wawa, Swashi, Agwara axis, you can go to Babana, and from there you can enter the northern side of Benin Republic. Then from the Kayama, Kosobosu, Chikanda area, you can go to Niki and enter Benin Republic through the southern area. Just the way from Idi, Roko, Owode, and Seme, you can enter through the capital, Cotonou. So these are issues. So above all, the Minister of Interior need to give a standing order to the Controller General of Immigration, so that the armed squad of immigration the capacity can be increased, because in the immigration, it is not every officer and men that carries arms. So the few ones that carry arms are called the armed squad. So also that of civil defense, the Commandant General also need to increase the capacity of the armed squad civil defense officers. No civil defense that is not armed has business in the border area. So also the immigration. Most of the times you see outside the ones that checks the passports, you find out that those patrolling don't even bear arms. Now, if an attacker comes, how do you curtail that? Therefore, there need to be increased in services that I mentioned to you: supervision, welfare, provision of gadgets, and host of other manning of.
Well, quite insightful indeed. Well, thank you so much, Saliu Mahmoud Dentata, for coming on the show today.
The pleasure. Thank you very
We
much.
hope to have you next time.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is mine.
Well, you're still watching Daybreak on Trust Television. After this quick timeout, we'll be having Francis Onabore from the Nigeria Correctional Service to discuss jailbreaks in Nigeria. Stay with us.
Suleiman, Aya, and Tari, all from the Sulubawa clan, with a unique wealth of culture and deep love for cattle, which truly reflects their sense of family. But over time, everything changes with no lands for grazing. Experience the incredible story of the Fulani people. Loved ones they must protect. The journey they must take.
Okay, welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on Trust TV. Now, in October, 122 inmates at Abolongo Prison in Oyo State escaped after gunmen attacked the facility. And this is after 200 inmates escaped Kaba Prison in Kogi State in September. Not forgetting that security operatives also aborted an attempted jailbreak at Benin Prison. Today, like we said earlier, we're going to be discussing a jailbreak, and to discuss the issue on ground, we actually have Francis Enabore. He's the Comptroller of Nigeria Correctional Services, and he's in charge of public relations. You're welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, you know, with this recent jailbreaks, the one that happened in September and October, it's just 1 month, you know, in between. And it seems jailbreaks are becoming a norm in Nigeria. What could be responsible for this?
Well, thank you very much. It's quite unfortunate that we are having this spate of attacks, you know, on our facility. I think the starting point should be to establish the difference between jailbreak as a result of internal insurrection amongst the inmates, which could be attributed to either poor management of the facility by the handlers or something that has to do with dissatisfaction amongst the inmates. But what we have been having of recent is more of hoodlums coming to invade custodial facilities with military-grade weapons. It has never been envisaged, you know, right from time that there will be a time in history that, or a time that hoodlums will come and invade facilities, you know, heavily armed, you know, for whatever reason. The system has been able to checkmate, you know, management of the facility to such an extent that we now celebrate progress being made in different fronts as far as inmates' welfare is concerned, including their social needs. We are celebrating inmates registering for university education. Just a couple of days back, 11 also matriculated, and it's sundry vocations that we train them on. So you will observe that what we are primed to do is to, one, ensure that inmates are given humane custody; two, to ensure that their care, their future is taken into consideration; three, to ensure that their medical needs are attended to. And this we have been doing consistently. Unfortunately, what we are seeing now is a product of the general insecurity that is sweeping across the country, which we are not sleeping over. Things are being done to ensure that this ugly trend is addressed. If you permit me, I want to quickly say what we as a service has been doing in response to the unfortunate development. Number one, we for those that are on the run, I can assure you we are going to hunt them to the last man standing. I can assure you that, because we have what it takes to go after them. Proactively, we're able to harvest their data and in working in synergy with the National Identity Management Commission, we have harvested their biometrics, where we are liaising with the Interpol to ensure that those that want to smuggle themselves out of the country do not have the means of doing that, and those that will carry out each transaction, they will be picked. That I can assure you. To ensure that it doesn't happen again, we are increasing physical presence of our men on ground. Of course, we are expanding the frontiers of our synergy with other sister agencies to increase men on ground, and we are going, want to introduce technology-driven custodial management. So these are a couple of things that we are trying to put in place, and practically we are trying to reclaim our buffer areas. Buffer area, what buffer area does is it enables men on ground to assess and profile whoever crosses into the red zone and is approaching the facility. As it is now, men on guard, what separates them from the civil populace is just the wall. But when we have double perimeter fence, the armed men on guard, they are the back of the second fence, and between the first and second fence, you have area we call buffer zone, red zone, which of course the Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, has already declared to be no-go area. So by the time we succeed in establishing these red zones and buffer areas, then we'll be able to adequately handle whoever is coming in.
Okay, now the federal government has inaugurated a vulnerability audit of the Nigerian Correctional Service custodial centers across the whole country. Is this actually a solution?
Yes, it is. Because it enables you to, permit me to say that not all information pertaining to this question you just asked, I want to divulge for very obvious reasons. Okay. But it's sufficient to say that it will enable us to re-strategize to address the situation. In fact, it has a lot of advantages that we are going to leverage to address the issue. Please, just let me reserve the others for obvious reasons.
That's totally fine. Many would say these kind of attacks don't happen for just cause. There has to be some internal intelligence, for these kind of attacks to happen. Is the service doing anything, to checkmate, some of these things happening within the facility?
Yes. Number one, it has to do partially with the question or surrounding reassessing vulnerability profile of our custodial centers, number one. Then number two, I did mention that we are looking at running a technology-driven custodial management. It has to do with that. And again, communication. We are also doing a lot to ensure that we manage communication within. A lot is involved, but let me leave it at that. But outside the facilities, I did mention also that we are expanding the frontiers of our collaboration with sister organization. That's to say that agencies that will be assisting us with intelligence to enable us nip some of these ugly incidences in the board. We are also expanding our collaboration with them, and essentially, we have recently embarked on deliberate campaign and appeal to members of the public, because these hoodlums, they are human beings. They are not some funny creatures from outside space. They live among us. They congregate. They gize. They share intelligence. They procure, logistics. So when these clandestine moves are going on, there is no way people will not suspect movements that are unusual. So our appeal is that whoever sees anything should say something, pass intelligence timely to security operatives, so that some of these attacks can be nipped in the bud.
Now, if I'm correct, some of these inmates were actually rearrested mostly in rural areas. And considering, you know, in most rural areas, you know, technology is, you know, zero there. So how do you expect those who live in such communities to have, you know, an idea of who these inmates are living around them?
Yes, wherever you live, these, like I said, these hoodlums, they are human beings that live among us. Whether you are in a rural area or in an urban environment, if you are carrying out clandestine activities to this magnitude, I tell you, these invaders, they come to our custodial centers with military-grade weapons. They don't come with a pistol or these the common AK-47 that some of these people brandish. So for you to move these heavy equipment, there is no way you will not be involved in something that is shady. And I don't know of any, no matter how remote it is, where we don't have a kind of organized system of administration. It could be through the village or community head, who will have a link to one security operative or the other. You just pass the information. There are two strange faces I see around. I'm not suspecting them, but the movements are not very clear to me. Could you get a check? And that's how you bust their moves. So this is the message we are trying to pass across.
Okay, now the correctional service, you know, is bestowed with the aim of, you know, rehabilitating some of these inmates, you know, in order to reintegrate them back into society better. But, well, some have said this is not really happening. We don't get to see that much happening in the Nigerian correctional service. Is the service doing anything in that regard?
Yeah. You recall that when we started this conversation, I did mention that just 2 days ago, 11 inmates in Ogun State matriculated to this National Open University of Nigeria. Presently, we have close to 3,000 inmates that are running different courses in the tertiary institute, including colleges of education and all of that. In 2018, for the very first time, the Nigerian Correctional Service won an award, an international award, UNESCO. When that award came, a lot of people were saying, well, how is it possible? You know, anybody that knows UNESCO will know that it's an organization you cannot bribe, you cannot influence. They do their independent observation, you know, classification and assessment. And you also recall that Mr. President, you know, mentioned very correctly that Nigerian Correctional Service, in its independent broadcast, that Nigerian Correctional Service has now been primed to you know, deliver on its mandate.
That's
and that,
good news.
Yes. So we are doing a lot. And I told you that, but for this recent unfortunate invasion of our facility by hoodlums, which to some extent is, do I say, a little beyond our immediate control, because nobody ever said it. It was good news that the Nigerian Correctional Service was consistently celebrating. Are you talking about infrastructural intervention? Are you talking about inmates' skill development in sundry vocations? Because that UNESCO prize of 2018, it was based on the uniqueness in our rehabilitation program, because we were able to combine skill development with educational pursuit. Because we realized that inmates that are serving term, they are already at a disadvantage by virtue of the fact that they have been convicted. And when they, no matter the level of education you give to them or the level of skill you give to them, when they go back to the society, they are going into the already congested labor market.
Right.
And coming with a certificate, certificate in quote, that says you are an ex-convict, which has already kept you at a disadvantage. So we just felt that if you combine the two, education and vocation, the man that is living will not necessarily go and start looking for job. Rather, he will be an employer. And that's what we have been doing consistently. I tell you, most of the convicted inmates that leave our custody, they have education and they have skill. And there is none, I tell you, there is none that will say he has less than 2 viable skills. They have their trade test certificate, but we don't celebrate paper qualification. We celebrate what they are capable of doing for themselves and doing for the society. That's the trajectory.
Okay, let's take a short break now. We are discussing jailbreaks in Nigeria with Francis Onabare. After this timeout, we'll continue the discussion. Stay with us.
All right, welcome back. It is still Daybreak on Trust TV, and we're discussing jailbreaks in our correctional facilities. Now, before we went on the break, Mr. Francis has actually answered quite a few questions. There's this one that has been bothering me, and it's I actually want to know what the major problems facing our correctional facilities are.
Thank you very much. I think that's a question I've been waiting to hear, and I'll be too glad to answer. If you ask any correctional officer today, even if you wake the person up midnight, the first thing they wake up to shout is congestion, overcrowding of our custodial center. And when we say congestion, it is important that we understand the dynamics. We have, on the whole, the aggregate space we have for inmates in Nigeria is a little above 55,000. But presently we have the number of our inmates oscillating between 68, 69, sometimes 70,000. That is not even the point. The point is, amongst these inmates, those that are awaiting trial, that is the pre-trial detainees, that's where we have the issue. This is why in almost all our engagement, our conversations, what we plead is subnationality should come to our rescue. I mean, state government. Because over 90% of the inmates in this category committed state offenses. So expectedly, it is the state legal instrument that will be deployed to address the problem. If you look at these areas that have been so violently attacked, the awaiting trial population is always between 70 to even 90% amongst the inmates. So that is the major problem we are facing. There are some of our facilities that are locking below installed capacity.
Okay.
We cannot reduce where we have excess inmates to those locations because those inmates there are still waiting for their cases to be finally tried.
So would you connect this to the slow pace, of the justice system in Nigeria?
Absolutely. That's what the problem is. Now, there's a question you asked earlier on the level of rehabilitation and the fact that some Nigerians will say they are not seeing much of it.
Right.
Now, the question you first that I would suggest whoever is assessing our facility based on the level of reformation and rehabilitation is whoever leaves the custodial facility and goes back to crime, find out from that person what was his or her status when he was in custody. Was he there as a convict or as an awaiting trial? If the person was there as an awaiting trial and spent 20 years awaiting trial, or depending on the type of crime that took him there, all we owe him is feeding and accommodation.
Wow.
It has nothing to do with rehabilitation, training, vocational exposure, and all of that. Sometimes we go out of our way to even engage some of the inmates that are awaiting trial in vocational training, education, and all of that. The reason is, number one, to ensure that you engage them actively to reduce the tendency to want to escape, to cause trouble, to fight in the yard, just to break that idleness. But if the person is depending on the type of crime that took the person there, you may not want to take him out and take him to a workshop so that you don't go and pollute others that are doing something meaningful.
Okay.
So if the person stayed there all this while as an awaiting trial and there was no opportunity for the person to learn any trade and the person leaves, well, throughout the period he was there, he was just there vegetating.
Right.
So the major problem is, let us have the percentage now, the ratio of close to 70 and above percent as awaiting trial. Let us have that same percent now reverse to convicted inmates, and then you see what we'll be able to do with them in terms of training and rehabilitation.
Okay, so what about gang-related activities within the facilities? How do you manage them?
Oh well, I tell you, we have, the system has adequately managed the relationship amongst our inmates that we don't have any gang issue at all.
Oh, wow.
It's not in fact, you made sorry, I don't know. I think you were the person that made reference to Benin issue. The Benin issue wasn't an attempted. It wasn't. I wouldn't rate it, or the system did not rate it as an attempted jailbreak because it was not an attempted jailbreak. What happened was that there was, during the NSAS, a group of inmates that escaped awaiting trial.
Okay.
They were, I told you that we are picking them one after the
Yeah.
other. So those of them that were rearrested and brought back, there was this, quarrel between them and the convicted inmate. It has always been, the convicted inmates were angry that they brought undue pressure on them. Why would they want to live unjustly and not face their case as they are serving their own JT? You are just coming, you committed an offense, instead of going to court and coming to serve your term as we are doing, you are making an attempt to escape. So that was the quarrel that happened between the two groups, and the men on ground, came immediately to address the issue. I think why people were relating it with attempted jailbreak was the sound of gunshot they heard, which was deliberately done outside the precinct of the prison to ensure that hoodlums that will hear shouting will not come again to cash in on the opportunity. So I think that was what happened.
Now, I'm really keen, on providing psychosocial support because some of these criminals, some will say, well, some of them are mentally derailed. Mm-hmm. Is it the duty of the service, to provide that, or who is supposed to do that?
Yeah, of course, any inmate that is brought into our custody becomes the property of the government. So by virtue of the fact that they are kept in our custody, it becomes our responsibility to ensure that their care and support is necessary care and support is provided. We have a retinue of psychologists, that do that. As an inmate, if you are coming in as an inmate, the first thing we do is to profile you, to understand your medically, and even skill-wise, we want to know where you can fit in. So if they discover, we have a number of instruments, that they administer on you to be able to know where you belong. If after administering the instrument they know you have some psychosocial issue, then we have professionals that will take over and begin to manage such where it goes beyond our. Well, I wouldn't want to use the word mental illness. If it goes beyond our immediate capacity, we get support from federal government institutions, to address such issues.
Okay, now we actually know that a right to bail can sometimes embolden inmates or criminals to, go back and, commit more crimes. How do you handle repeat offenders?
Yes, when you are dealing with a group of human beings, you may not score 100% in rehabilitating every maladjusted individual, brought under your custody. What we do is when an inmate is processed through the machinery of rehabilitation, either in sundry vocation, in education, and all of that, as you are living, we have what we call aftercare scheme. The aftercare scheme is designed to give a trained inmate in any skill what we call startup tools. Okay. If you learn hairdressing, barbing, tailoring, whatever, we procure the necessary tools for that particular inmate, and then aftercare officers who will not be in uniform will first of all ask the inmate where he or she wants to reside. Once that is established, we send people there to meet the community leader, youth leaders, talk to them, sensitize them that so and so person is coming to stay in your community. In fact, we go to the community leader to enable them understand who is coming into their midst, and then support the person to stay, in the community. Then we gradually ease the person into that environment, and the aftercare officer will follow for a period of 6 months. We'll be doing regular monitoring to see the level of reintegration. Where there's a relapse, we are not going to arrest the person because we don't have the power to arrest, but we will now make a beeline to the community leader or to relevant agency that, look, this person is relapsing, then they take it up from there. But to a very large extent, amongst those that were convicted and trained in sundry vocations, we are having very encouraging result as per reintegration without relapsing to crime.
Okay, now many would agree that we don't get to see much of activities happening, in correctional services in the media, and this attributes to the fact that journalists or the media don't really have access to these facilities. Is it because of security reasons, or there's a reason why we don't get to see much?
Well, I don't know if I will agree with that assertion, because number one, this is a media trust. I know we have a desk. Mr. Joshua works with you. He was until he was made an editor or a sub-editor, I don't know his ranking now. He was our desk, and he covers our activities, every now and then. all the platforms, both social social media platform and all of that, they have access to our facilities. The much that security we allow, the more security we allow in the sense that we have some facilities where we have high profile individuals. If a journalist comes to us to say, I want to see A and B, and if they are high profile image, we may not grant you access. Like the image that just matriculated, the journalists went there, they covered the ceremony. So when we are giving startup tools, they are always around. So doors are open to the media to cover our activities.
Because we want to see more, of stories like this coming up.
All right, but just before we wrap up, can you tell us the difference between minimum, medium, and maximum facility?
That is basically on the facilities classified based on the strength of the facility, the caliber of image being kept.
Okay, with that, we'll wrap up this discussion on Jailbreak. Thank you so much, Francis Enobere, for gracing us with your presence.
Yes,
Hope to have you some other time.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, now motorists on Wednesday had a harrowing experience of traffic gridlock on Abuja Curfew Road because of military checks. Many spent hours before they finally reached their destination. In this report, Gaza Yakubu takes a look at the situation that happened. Take a look.
It is a bad day for residents plying Nyanya Maraba Road as they struggle to access the Federal Capital Territory. For those who could not afford to contain the gridlock, trekking is an option. They says the military checkpoint has worsened their conditions.
Yeah, we wake up this morning, suddenly don't tell us that there is a checking point. We thought it's just a normal checking point, and we were not knowing that the road has been blocked, and we don't just know what is going on. That is just the thing. The essence of the checking point is what we don't know. They just wake up, block the road without we don't even know what is going on.
Nyanya Maraba Road is known for gridlock every day, but the conditions residents are subjected to today is unusual. According to them, they have been trekking for hours without getting to their destination and are not giving up until they assess their workplace.
I'm feeling very terrible. I can't go to my workplace.
Are you not going to turn and go back home?
No, I have to go and get food for my family, man.
Is it necessary?
Very necessary.
Going through this stress?
Huh?
Going through this stress, is it necessary?
I just have to do it for my children.
I've been trekking for about 30-45 minutes now, all the way from Karo, inside Karo. Road is completely blocked. It's terrible.
Returning home is not an option, as they complain their bosses will not take excuses and they had to put food on the table.
If you don't go now, my boss will be angry with me and they will not understand. Like I said, I am tired, but some persons are using us to cash cruise in this country.
The hold-up seems not to be ending anytime soon, as the military were still on the road at the time of filing this report. Gaza Yakubu, Trust TV News, Maraba.
Suleiman, Aya, and Tari, all from the Sulubawa clan, with a unique wealth of culture and deep love for cattle, which truly reflects their sense of family. But over time, everything changes with no lands for grazing. Experience the incredible story of the Fulani people, loved ones they must protect, the journey they must take.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Nice to see you, sir. You got a 10-year-old son, a 12-year-old son. He's a shill boy. Yeah, and how did he get to that stage? You allowed it to happen. You allowed it to fester. It's like a cancer.
It's a failure of the family, a failure of the society, and a failure of governance.
We are still going into some other hideouts to see if any apprehensions will be made tonight.
To operate within the context of the law with much respect to human rights.
Welcome back. Now, all I have to say about this is it must have been a devastating experience for, motorists plying that road, especially those who had deadlines to meet and those who had to be at work at a certain time. Because I know one of us actually, missed work because apparently it lasted till 3 p.m.
That's quite
the
very
gridlock
long time.
lasted till 3 p.m. But, for there to be a military checkpoint, it might just mean that, there's something they're not telling us, and it's probably for a good cause.
Well, some have actually said it's because of the kidnapping, that happened at the University of Abuja.
Okay.
And now the military are manning every part of the town, to avoid the occurrence of this. But we just hope this turns
But that
out
particular road is a very sensitive area because you have a lot of people around Maraba, coming into Abuja for work. I think, something should be done to expedite movement there, despite the kidnapping. Yes. And, we also got information that another one is happening right now. Another gridlock is happening right now around Nyanya Abuja Expressway. Yes. So, I think something should be done because a lot of people have work to, come to in Abuja here.
I actually heard that some actually packed their cars and had to use bikes.
Yeah. Some who are lucky actually made it to work, later than expected. So.
I hope some that get sacked.
No, they won't.
Okay, let's move on to the next discussion segment of the show. I am super excited about this segment. Our guest today is a media professional. She is a talented international radio broadcaster who has worked in different broadcast outfits around the world, including The Voice of America in Washington, D.C., where she retired after 20 years. She's now here with us in Daily Trust with a podcast team, and she is Halima Jimro. Welcome to the show.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, ladies.
All right, so
Thank you for having me.
Yes, you're welcome. So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
What do you want to know about me?
Like
everything.
Everything.
No, not everything. Okay, like you said, my name is Halima Jumro. I'm a media professional. Worked for the Voice of America for 20 years. I'm a mother of 2 boys. Hassan, 22, Ismail, 18.
Okay.
And I come from a large African family, 4 wives. We are about 42 kids.
Wow.
So even though we've lost like 18, 19,
okay.
now we're 22, 23, boys, girls, women, men. So that's it.
I think something you're yet to establish is where you're from.
Oh.
Yes.
The United Nations. I'm from everywhere. Okay, I'm originally from Niger Republic.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born in Maine, Soroa,
Okay.
in the Difa region. We're neighbors with Damaturu, Yobe, and Borno. So yeah, I'm from Niger Republic, and I became U.S. citizen. And maybe next I'll be Nigerian citizen. Who knows?
Oh, we'd love to have you.
Honestly.
So what do you love, most about being a journalist?
Being a journalist is the teaching part. We're not just journalists, we're teachers, we're counselors, we're guides, we are mothers for the men, fathers, so we do it all. So that's the teaching part. People learn a lot from one program, one episode. That's what I love about it.
Okay, so what drives you when it comes to your professional, your career? What drives you?
My passion for what I do and the love for what I do. That's what really gets me going every day. Yeah, the passion and the love for what I do.
Okay, so tell us one of the biggest challenges you've ever faced.
Challenges?
Yeah.
As a journalist.
As a journalist.
Wow. Challenges. Yeah, there are a lot of them, but I can say the biggest challenge for me was leaving my parents in 1996, go to the U.S., Washington, and found myself with some great journalists that I used to listen to on radio, and I couldn't believe that I was right there with them and I was supposed to work with them. That was really big for me, and little by little I got to settle and things got smooth. Yeah, so that was the big challenge, really.
So was there a time that you said, I need to give up, I can't do this anymore? Was there ever a time like that?
Yes, there was, but it wasn't about the work, but it was about the new place I found myself in, America, the environment. It was new, I didn't know anyone, and the way people live, we would just meet at work, and after work everybody was on his own. You go home, you find, and like I told you in the beginning, I came from a large family. I have never found myself alone in my apartment. That was really challenging for me, and I didn't want to stay. I didn't want to. I talked to the manager. They said, no, you just got here, just be patient. I said, no, I can't. I don't like the country. But, they sat me down. I think the now House Service Chief, Aliyu Mustafa, if you can remember, he sat me down. He said, just be patient. And Steve Lucas was the whole division supervisor. He sat me down to talk to me. And I said, okay, let me give it a try. And guess what?
You ended up spending...
I met my husband.
Oh!
I fell in love. We got married and America became home.
Oh, wow.
You spent how many years?
In America?
Yes, in America.
25 years.
25 years.
Yes,
but what about a Voice of America?
20 years.
20 years.
Yes,
That's quite a long time.
Halfway through.
Yeah, 96, 2016.
Quite a long time.
All right, so was there, what do you consider your greatest achievement?
Wow. Do you really want to go there?
Yes.
In your career or in life?
Career. I would say working for 20 years at the Voice of America, mingling with people, you know, and do 20 years peacefully, respectfully, and retired. People are still missing you. You're still in contact. So I think this is, I can say it's one of the achievements.
Okay. Is there a particular piece you've done or a particular program that you love so much that you still remember even now that you've left Washington?
Yeah, we have this show, Yau da Gobe, that we used to do. I think it's still on. So actually it's a youth program, youth and women. So we did a lot of programming, but something that really still, when I think about it, was about rape. A little girl, I think she was 3, she got raped in Kaduna. Wow. She ended up being killed. So we talked to the father, the mother, and how they were threatened by community leaders who were supposed to be with them, support them, help them get justice. So still, you know, when I think about that, I feel like I didn't do much to help. Each time I say, what could I have done to help more? I still, you know, think about that.
Now, was there a career setback you faced that, you know, later turned out to be an advantage?
A setback? I cannot say for sure because, you know, usually the people who get setbacks are those who set, like, I wouldn't say ambitious, maybe ambitious, those who want to climb the ladder and be the big bosses. That's not me, that's not for me.
Okay.
I am contented with what I do, and that contentment give me what I want and get me where I want to go. So I can't say setback because I'm, you know, how can I put it? I'm not greedy. I'm not, because, come again?
You're a moving train.
Something like that. I don't know what you mean, but yeah, something like that.
Okay. All right. And now, how do you create motivation for yourself and also for your team?
It's still about that passion, about that love that I talk about of what I do. My team, actually, we've created this environment that we're honest with each other, we respect each other.
Okay.
We don't hide anything from each other. You do something to me, I don't like it, I come to you and say, look, you did this, I didn't like it, and we're encouraged to do that. So I think, and we share the little we know, we help each other, because working as a team is really, because we cannot just say we're a team, and I do my thing, you do your, no, we are a team, and so we work as a team, and we respect each other, and we motivate each other.
So was there at any point as a woman, because as women, sometimes women journalists face some form of harassment, or there's a form of gender, disparity, going on sometimes in the newsroom. Is there, at any point, have you faced anything like that?
Not really, or I can say yes, but
Ima.
Come again?
No.
Okay, not really, because I don't see myself as there is something I cannot do. I chose to be a journalist so I can face all the challenges or the hurdles, the obstacles. I'm not saying I can do what a man can do, but as a journalist, I can do what a male journalist can do. If he can go to a battlefield, I can go there. If he can go into a well to look for an information, I can walk down into that well, and so I cannot really say that I...
Okay, talking about you, doing what a man can do and going, the extra mile.
As a journalist.
Yes, as a journalist.
Yeah.
Have you ever gone, in the course of your career, have you ever gone above and beyond for the job? And if yes, tell us about that time.
What do you mean above and beyond.
Like
you know, I'm old school, so explain to me, what do you mean?
Like going, for example, I know a lot of women don't get sent to the battlefield as journalists because, like you said, gender disparity and all that. So that's an example.
You know, I can say I've been lucky to work for the Voice of America. You know, the American society, they don't have this.
Okay.
Like there's a schedule of assignment. So men, women we could go anywhere. They send because we have women in Afghanistan, Iraq, stuff like that.
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right. So how does Daily Trust differ from Voice of America? What makes it different? And why did you decide to leave Voice of America for Daily Trust?
You really want me to compare VOA and...
Yes, you do.
Wow. Don't do this.
Please do that.
Okay, within the Nigerian context, I can say Daily Trust is the VOA of Nigeria.
Oh, wow.
I can say that because I've worked, I've done some consultation works with some coming up, and some radios that are coming up. So even trying to compare those radios that are coming up with Daily Trust is being unfair to those radios because Daily Trust is here, I think, 1998.
That's a long time.
I think it's a long time. So it's a house name, is established, yeah.
So you work with the podcast team.
Yes.
Could you walk us through, some of the activities that you do there?
Yeah, but I forgot to. She asked me why I've decided to
join Daily Trust.
Okay, even my retirement, I took an early retirement because to me, after 20 years in a place, there is nothing more to learn. But I had a lot to give back.
Oh, yeah.
So I've decided, why not retire and go back to my country, Niger, and give back, to the community and learn the little I know with the upcoming journalists.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when I went to Niger, they didn't understand that. All they think about is money. They can't afford me. They can't afford me. So it hurts me a lot because I even told them it's not about the money. I can do this for free. I just what they say. Yeah, but I said okay. So I think that's why and one of the reasons maybe I'm here, Daily Trust, and English, Niger is French, but I feel a little bit comfortable with English. So I think that is about giving back to the community.
Okay, let's go back to the
podcast.
Oh.
Could you tell us, the experience with the podcast?
The podcast is amazing. It's the same with radio, but different. Because podcast is we can say it's radio online. Radio online, it's a file audio. We upload it online, and you or everyone listening to us can download it to any device. Yeah, so it's like radio, but on demand. Actually, podcast is personal, on-demand broadcast. That's the meaning, the definition of podcast. So yeah.
Okay, which has actually been more valuable in your career? Is it your education or your experience? And if you could actually tell us a bit about your educational background, would appreciate that. My education, I've studied English. Okay.
I went actually from primary to university in Niger Republic. Then I went to Ile-Ife, Obafemi Awolowo, where I got my BA in English. So to come back to your question, experience and what?
Education.
If I had followed my education, I would have been a teacher somewhere.
Okay.
But here I am. So I would say experience is, you need education. You can learn, you can read, you can write, but your education has nothing to do with what you do. Experience is, I think even now people like the jobs, institutions, are looking more
An
of experience than so yeah, experience.
Okay, I've been itching to ask this question.
I think I have an idea.
How were you able to balance family and your career?
And considering your family, you're far away from them, yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's something that we automatically ought to learn and ought to understand to separate work
and
family. Because we are all carrying our bag of manures, we're all going through things, we're all having our personal issues, but we're not allowed to bring them to work.
Right.
So I carry my bag of manure, I come to work, I leave it at the gate. I come in happy, ready to do what I'm here to do. I do my work, and when I'm done, I leave work here, I pick up my bag of manure, go home. So don't mix, because beside this work, we have a life.
Right.
We have friends, we have husbands, wives, boyfriends. So yeah, so we should be able to really separate because the mistake a lot of people do is mixing the two. And once you do that, you're into deep.
Okay, so what are your next career steps?
Career?
Yes.
None.
Do you have much of
that? You've achieved everything.
Honestly, now I'm not aspiring to become. No, I'm just leave me do my podcast and giving back. I have no. No.
You're good where you are.
I'm good. Yeah.
All right. Now, what mistake have you made, or what mistake have you observed that successful journalists often make while climbing the ladder that you need people to watch out for?
Impatience.
Impatience.
A lot of people want to get there without putting the patience and the hard work. Just be patient. Yeah, I observed a lot of impatience. Also, a lot of bickering, hating workplace.
A lot of that.
Yeah, which to me doesn't help. If we are a team, we should be more than that. We should be a family. So yeah, we made mistakes, a lot of conflicts, but that can easily be squashed. And without patience, we cannot do that. Without patience, we cannot have a good healthy relationship at the workplace. You cannot even achieve your life or career goals without patience. So patience is really vital, is a vital skill for any professional and for any profession.
Okay. So how would you describe the state of journalism in Nigeria?
Okay. Some are good, some are bad. Because I keep, each time for our podcast, we call especially government officials in Nigeria, I notice it's like they're running away from journalists. They don't want to talk to us. And you guys, as you know, in our kind of job, we need to balance. We cannot just go out with a story without balancing. And we need to hear from the government side. But that's challenging, actually. So I think it has to do with something, I don't know what, but Nigerian journalists know what they're doing wrong, that because journalists should be respected. Journalism is not for anyone, it's
a noble profession, actually.
Exactly, it's noble, and we should keep it as that. But I think maybe some journalists are doing things that journalists are not supposed to do, and they need to look into that.
Okay, so where do you see the industry going in the future? Where do you see it in future?
Daily Trust?
The industry, media industry.
Media is here to stay.
Especially in Nigeria.
Nigeria, yeah, is here to stay with your population, your exposure, media is here to stay, and it's going to be big, especially with the new media.
Okay.
It's just up to the companies to how can I say, to follow the new trend. Yeah, it's up to the news companies to follow the trend, develop and come up with new ideas, and yeah, keep it to sustain it.
Okay.
So yeah, sustain it.
Okay, so before we wrap up this discussion, which I actually don't feel like doing,
Do you want to ask more questions?
what advice do you have for women journalists, particularly young women, upcoming
Young women,
journalists?
just be yourselves. Don't try to imitate those I'm poor, and just be yourselves. Be yourselves, respect yourself, and your reputation is very important. Protect your reputation, and I think that's it. And don't wait for the news to come to you. Go get it. Don't say that I'm a woman, I cannot go into the market. And no, you can. You have chosen to be a journalist. You can do a journalist work, a journalist job. So yeah.
Quite interesting
Yes,
conversation.
I actually learned a lot from this conversation.
Really?
Yes, I did. But I'll tell you about it later.
For the upcoming journalists, I am urging you guys, because I'm a mother to you guys, I'm urging you to be patient. Don't be impatient. Don't be impatient. Be patient. Your turn will come, because that's the problem people, have at workplace, especially the young ones. Not you, I'm saying the young.
Yeah.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We've actually been having quite an interesting
I was
conversation.
scared of you guys. I didn't want to be here. Thank you.
Pulled you through.
You made me feel comfortable. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. All right, yes, that's it. With that, I think up next will be What's Trending. But before we go into What's Trending, let's take a quick break.
Aberakara.
Hello?
Onímúrí méje.
Àwọn múrí mẹ́jọ.
Okay, there's a white boy frying akara.
Akara, also known as a bean cake.
Really, bean cake? I know it as akara. I don't know bean cake.
It's actually quite funny because while he was frying the akara, he was speaking in Yoruba, and calling on people to come and buy akara, fresh akara.
I would love to see the customers who would because they're going to be looking at him. Speaking Yoruba,
but as a Nigerian, right? I would want something different, because just something away from the norm, And seeing a white boy fry akara, I think I can buy 1 million naira akara.
No, okay, because it's white? Or?
Yeah, because it's different, and it might probably taste better or taste different.
With what vegetables in it?
I don't know. Like, kisa, hannu, how they say in Hausa, hannu ne,
it
different
actually
people.
shows humility as well.
Yeah, it does. But he probably just, posed for the camera, but it shows humility. I don't think it's what he does.
He posed for the camera.
Yes, I think he posed for the camera. But, you have a lot of white people, like Ayuba once told me, a lot of white people selling Ankara in markets when you go to other countries.
Talking about Ankara, some would say, even down here in Nigeria, we don't really value Ankara, but the whites, my goodness.
They do.
They love Ankara so much. You see them buying a lot of it when they come down here.
It's just like how Nigerians actually value, anything other than made in Nigeria.
Okay.
Do you understand? Yes, most Nigerians do that. So,
all right, that's a conversation for another day. It's been quite exciting on the show this morning. We hope you'll be here with us tomorrow for another exciting package on Daybreak on Trust Television. I am Zainab Bala.
And I am Darshan Husseina Usman. Have yourselves a wonderful day ahead.